The living room was too quiet. That's what hit me first when I stepped through the door. Detective Marcus Rivera, 23 years on the force, and silence still unnerved me more than screaming ever could. The patrol officers had already secured the scene, their faces pale under the porch light. One of them, a rookie named Patterson, stood outside, gulping air like he'd just surfaced from deep water. Inside, the Christmas tree lights blinked red and green against the wall, cheerful and obscene. Emma Hawkins lay on the carpet near the fireplace, her body positioned almost peacefully, like she'd simply decided to lie down and never get back up. She wore pajamas, soft blue ones with white clouds. Her face looked serene, younger than 34 somehow, her dark hair fanned around her head. But her lips were slightly blue. Todd Hawkins stood by the bay window, backlit by the flashing police cruiser lights outside. He wasn't crying, wasn't pacing, just standing there with his arms crossed, watching the street like he was waiting for a package delivery. When I approached, he turned slowly, his expression flat. "She's gone," he said. Not a question, not grief, just a statement of fact, delivered in the same tone you'd use to mention the weather. Something cold crawled on my spine. I pulled out my notebook, clicked my pen. "Mr. Hawkins, I need you to walk me through what happened tonight." Todd's eyes didn't quite meet mine. They fixed somewhere over my left shoulder. She'd been sick for months. Heart condition, congenital, the doctors said. Tonight, I came home from work and found her like this. His voice was steady, almost rehearsed. "What time did you get home?" "Around 7:30. I work late Fridays." I glanced at Emma's body again. The EMTs hadn't moved her yet, waiting for the medical examiner. "You didn't try CPR?" I could tell she was gone. He said it matter-of-factly, like identifying a burned-out light bulb. I wrote that down, underlining it twice. "When did you last see her alive?" "This morning, before work. She seemed fine. Tired maybe, but fine." That's when he said it. The sentence that would unravel everything. He shifted his weight, glanced at the Christmas tree, and added almost casually, "She'd been sick, but I didn't think it would kill her." Didn't think. Past tense. Like he considered the possibility. My pen stopped moving. 3 days earlier, Emma Hawkins had been alive, standing in her sister's kitchen 70 miles away in Millbrook. I learned this from Claire Dawson, Emma's younger sister, who sat across from me at the station the next morning, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't touched. "She came to visit me Tuesday," Claire said, her voice hoarse from crying. "Just showed up at my door without calling first." That wasn't like her. Emma always planned everything. How did she seem? Claire's eyes filled. Scared. She kept looking at her phone like she expected someone to call. She had bruises on her wrists. She demonstrated, circling her own wrist with her fingers. When I asked about them, she said she'd bumped into furniture. But Emma was the most careful person I knew. I leaned forward. Did she say anything else? About Todd, about their marriage? She said she was tired, that she couldn't fight anymore. Claire's voice cracked. I asked her what she meant, and she just shook her head. Said she had to go. She hugged me at the door, held on longer than normal, and whispered, "If anything happens to me, don't believe it was my heart." The Hawkins house felt different in daylight. I stood in the living room where Emma had died, letting my eyes adjust to the details I'd missed in last night's chaos. The forensics team had finished their sweep. Photographers, evidence collectors, the whole circus, leaving behind only numbered markers and fingerprint dust. The house was nice. Too nice, actually. Everything matched. The throw pillows coordinated with the curtains, the books on the shelves organized by color. It looked like a magazine spread, sterile and perfect. But when I looked closer, I saw the cracks. A wedding photo on the mantle showed Emma and Todd 5 years ago. Her smile broad and genuine, his more controlled. Beside it, dust outlined where another frame had been recently removed. The mail piled on the hall table was mostly addressed to Emma, bills, medical statements, gallery newsletters. In the corner of the room, an easel stood covered with a sheet. I lifted the sheet carefully. The painting underneath stopped me cold. A woman stood in a glass box, her hands pressed against the walls, her mouth open in a silent scream. The colors were dark, charcoals and deep blues, and the woman's face, though abstract, carried Emma's distinctive cheekbones, her dark eyes. I photographed it, then called the forensics team back. Todd's alibi crumbled faster than wet paper. He claimed he was at work until 7:30, but his office manager, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Vance, told me he'd left at 4. He said he had a family emergency, Patricia explained over the phone, which was strange because he never leaves early. Todd's the kind of guy who stays until 8, 9 o'clock most nights. Control thing, I think. I checked his credit card statements next, obtained through a rush warrant. At 4:47 p.m. on the day Emma died, Todd had made a purchase at Henderson's Pharmacy, 3 miles from his house. I called the store. What did he buy? I asked the pharmacist. Let me check. Antacids, a bottle of water, and a pause. Digitalis extract. Said his wife was having heart palpitations and her prescription had run out. My blood went cold. Digitalis, a heart medication that, in high doses, could stop a heart completely. And Emma's prescription bottle, which we'd found in the bathroom, was full. She hadn't run out. Did he seem anxious? Nervous? Actually, no. Very calm. Businesslike. Even made a joke about his wife being dramatic about her symptoms. I hung up and stared at my notes. Mrs. Chun lived next door to the Hawkins. She was 72, a retired librarian who'd watched the neighborhood evolve over 4 decades. When I knocked, she answered immediately, like she'd been waiting. I wondered when someone would come, she said, leading me into a living room that smelled of jasmine tea. I heard them arguing 3 nights ago. Wednesday, around midnight. I pulled out my recorder. What did you hear? Her voice mostly. Emma was saying, I won't let you control me anymore. And he said something I couldn't make out, but his tone, she shuddered. Ice cold. Then I heard something break, glass, I think, and everything went quiet. Did you call the police? Shame crossed her face. I thought about it, but they always seem so perfect, you know? And Todd, he has this way of making you feel foolish for questioning him. He came over the next morning with cookies, asked if his clumsy wife had disturbed me with her late-night dishwashing. He was smiling, but his eyes weren't. Did you ever talk to Emma? Occasionally. She used to paint in her garden on Sunday mornings. Such beautiful work. But the last few months, I stopped seeing her outside. The curtains stayed closed. She met my eyes. I should have knocked on that door. Dr. Catherine Wallace, Emma's cardiologist, sat across from me in her pristine office. Emma's medical file spread between us. Her face was drawn, professional composure barely holding. Emma's condition was manageable, Dr. Wallace said firmly. Mitral valve prolapse, common, treatable. She was on a low-dose beta blocker, had regular checkups. There was absolutely no reason for her to die suddenly. Her husband said it was congenital, life-threatening. That's categorically false. Dr. Wallace's jaw tightened. I saw Emma 2 weeks ago for a routine appointment. She was fine physically, but she hesitated. But what? She asked me about medication interactions. Specifically, what would happen if someone took digoxin who didn't need it? At the time, I thought she was worried about accidentally taking Todd's medication. He'd mentioned having atrial fibrillation. I explained that in a healthy person, especially in high doses, it could cause dangerous arrhythmias, even cardiac arrest. The room tilted slightly. Did you document that conversation? Yes, and I gave her a pamphlet on medication safety. She pushed a paper across the desk. A highlighted section read, Digoxin poisoning symptoms, nausea, confusion, irregular heartbeat, respiratory distress. Did Emma seem scared? Terrified. She kept looking at her phone. When I asked if everything was all right at home, she started crying and said she had to go. The toxicology report arrived on a gray Monday morning, delivered by courier with a red, urgent stamp. I opened it at my desk, my coffee growing cold as I read the findings. Digitalis glycoside, for 0.2 nanograms per milliliter. Therapeutic range, 0.5 to 2.0 nanograms per milliliter. Emma had more than twice the lethal dose in her system. The medical examiner's notes were clinical but damning. Cardiac glycoside toxicity presenting as ventricular fibrillation. Concentration consistent with acute poisoning rather than chronic therapeutic use. No prescription for digitalis found in victim's medical history. I called Dr. Wallace immediately. How long would this take to kill her? Depends on the dose and delivery method. If administered in food or drink over several hours, symptoms would begin within 2 to 4 hours. Full cardiac arrest could occur within 6 to 12 hours after ingestion. Todd had been home alone with Emma from 4:30 until 7:30, 3 hours. Plenty of time. I requested a search warrant for the house, specifically the kitchen and Todd's car. The judge signed it within an hour. In the kitchen cabinet, behind the spice rack, we found a small brown bottle with no label. The forensics lab confirmed pure digitalis extract, pharmaceutical grade. Rebecca Morrison had been Emma's closest friend since college. She drove 3 hours from Capital City the moment she heard, arriving at my office with red-rimmed eyes and a manila folder clutched against her chest. "Emma gave me this 6 weeks ago," Rebecca said, sliding the folder across the table. "She made me promise not to open it unless something happened to her. I thought she was being paranoid. I thought." Her voice broke. Inside were bank statements, screenshots of text messages, and a handwritten letter dated 2 months before Emma's death. Her handwriting was shaky but deliberate. "If you're reading this, I'm probably dead, and Todd probably killed me. I don't know how he'll do it, but he's been researching my heart condition obsessively. He's convinced everyone I'm dying, my family, our friends, even me sometimes. But Dr. Wallace says I'm fine. He wants me gone. The life insurance policy he took out 3 months ago is for $500,000. I'm trapped. If I leave, he says he'll make sure I never see my kids again. He has lawyer friends, money, and everyone believes his perfect husband act. Rebecca, please make sure the truth comes out." My hands shook holding the letter. Willow Creek was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, where secrets fester beneath polite smiles and neighborly waves. The news of Emma's death had spread like wildfire, but the whispers about Todd came slower, more cautious. I spent the afternoon canvassing their street, knocking on doors, asking questions. Most people praised Todd, responsible, involved dad, friendly neighbor. But the cracks appeared in the pauses, the careful word choices. He always seemed intense, offered Mr. Brennan from 3 houses down. Very particular about his lawn, his car. Once yelled at my kid for riding his bike too close to their driveway. At the elementary school, Emma's son's teacher, Mrs. Phillips, pulled me aside. "Jackson's been withdrawn lately. Last month, he drew a picture during art class, his family, but his mom was separated from everyone else behind a wall. When I asked about it, he said, 'Daddy says Mom needs to stay home where it's safe.'" The library had records of Todd's borrowing history. He'd checked out 3 books on heart disease in the past 4 months, plus one titled The Perfect Crime, a historical analysis. Everything pointed to premeditation. Careful, calculated murder disguised as natural causes. The town was starting to see it too. The perfect facade was cracking. I brought Todd in for a second interview on Thursday. He arrived with his lawyer, a slick operator named Hendricks who smelled like expensive cologne and moral flexibility. Todd sat across from me, composed as ever, while I laid out the evidence piece by piece. The digitalis purchase, the timeline discrepancies, Emma's letter, the insurance policy. My client has an explanation for everything. Hendricks interjected before Todd could speak. "Then let him explain," I said, eyes locked on Todd. Todd's face remained neutral, but I saw his jaw tighten. Emma was paranoid. Her anxiety was part of her condition. Dr. Wallace can confirm mental symptoms of heart disease. The insurance policy was standard financial planning. The digitalis. He paused, something flickering behind his eyes. "I bought it because Emma asked me to. She said her prescription wasn't working." "Emma didn't have a prescription for digitalis," I said quietly. Then she was confused. Like I said, the anxiety. Her doctor says she was perfectly lucid 2 weeks before she died. Silence settled over the room like snow. Hendricks whispered something to Todd, but Todd wasn't listening. He was staring at the table, his mask finally slipping. "She was going to leave me," he said suddenly, voice hollow. "Take the kids, destroy everything I built." I couldn't. I just wanted her to stop. Hendricks went pale. "Don't say another word." But Todd kept talking, words spilling out like poison. "I didn't want her to suffer. The digitalis was supposed to be peaceful. She wasn't supposed to. He stopped, reality crashing down. I had my confession. The arraignment was swift. Todd Hawkins was charged with first-degree murder, premeditated, deliberate, and cold-blooded. The prosecution had everything: motive, means, opportunity, and his own confession. Hendricks tried to walk it back, claiming coercion, but the recording was clear. Todd had admitted everything. The trial date was set for 3 months out. In the meantime, Emma's children went to live with Claire, their aunt, while the state built its case. I visited them once, saw the confusion in their eyes. Their father arrested, their mother dead, their world shattered. Jackson, the older one at 8 years old, asked me, "Did Daddy hurt Mommy?" I knelt down to his level. "Yes, buddy, he did." "Why?" It was the question I couldn't answer. Why does someone choose control over love? Why does fear of abandonment turn to murder? Why do we hurt the people we're supposed to protect? "I don't know," I said honestly, "but we're going to make sure he can't hurt anyone else." In the courtroom weeks later, Todd's defense argued diminished capacity, claiming Emma's alleged infidelity had driven him to temporary insanity. They painted Emma as manipulative, unstable, a woman who'd pushed her devoted husband to the breaking point. It was obscene, but that's how these cases go sometimes. Blame the victim, rewrite history, make a monster sympathetic. The jury deliberated for 2 days. I spent those 48 hours pacing the courthouse halls, drinking bad coffee, watching Emma's family wait for justice that would never truly come. When the verdict came, the courtroom was packed. Todd sat stone-faced beside his lawyer, showing nothing. The jury foreman stood, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes that had turned hard over the past 6 weeks. We, the jury, find the defendant, Todd Hawkins, guilty of murder in the first degree. The room exhaled. Emma's mother sobbed into her hands. Claire closed her eyes, tears streaming silently. Todd didn't react, just stared straight ahead like he was watching something very far away. At sentencing 2 weeks later, the judge, a stern woman named Garcia, who'd presided with fierce impartiality, looked at Todd with undisguised contempt. "You took a vibrant woman, a loving mother, and slowly poisoned her to death while pretending to care for her. You manipulated everyone around you, playing the devoted husband while plotting murder. The cruelty of your crime is matched only by your cowardice." She sentenced him to life without parole. As they led him away, Todd turned and looked at me. For the first time since this began, I saw something in his eyes. Not remorse, but surprise, like he genuinely couldn't understand how he'd been caught. Monsters rarely do. The fallout in Willow Creek was seismic. How had they missed it? How had their friendly neighbor, their PDA dad, their helpful guy next door, been capable of murder? The guilt settled over the community like fog. Mrs. Chin stopped sleeping, haunted by the argument she'd heard and dismissed. The neighbors who'd envied the Hawkins' perfect life now felt sick looking at their house. The teachers who'd seen Jackson's drawings wondered what else they'd missed. I attended a town meeting 2 months after the verdict, where residents gathered to discuss warning signs and community awareness. It was well-intentioned but heartbreaking. People desperate to believe they could prevent the next tragedy by simply paying closer attention. But domestic violence doesn't always leave visible bruises. Control doesn't always look like cruelty. And some people are very, very good at hiding who they really are. Emma's house stood empty, a for sale sign planted in the perfect lawn. No one wanted to buy it. It became a monument to failure, the towns, the systems, our collective inability to see suffering that happened behind closed doors. At night, driving past it, I sometimes saw lights in the windows, just reflections I knew, but they felt like ghosts. I couldn't shake the question that Dr. Garcia had left hanging in that courtroom. How many others? I started digging through records, looking for patterns. Women with mysterious sudden deaths ruled as natural causes. Husbands with convenient alibis. Insurance policies taken out shortly before tragedy struck. In the 3 years before Emma's death, 4 women in surrounding counties had died of apparent heart failure. All were under 40. All had controlling partners. All had life insurance policies. 3 of those cases had been closed without investigation. I sat in my office at midnight, files spread across my desk. and felt the weight of all those unasked questions, all those unchallenged stories, all those women whose suffering went unnoticed until it was too late. Emma had tried to be seen. She'd left clues, the letter, the paintings, the conversation with her doctor. She'd told her sister, warned her friend. She'd done everything right, and she'd still died, because Todd had been more believable than her fear. I thought about the letter Emma had written, her shaky handwriting spelling out the truth weeks before her death. She'd known, she'd seen it coming, and she'd been powerless to stop it. The injustice of it burned. I visited the cemetery on a cold March morning, 6 months after Emma's death. Her gravestone was simple. Emma Claire Hawkins, beloved mother, sister, friend, artist. Her light still shines. Someone had left fresh flowers. I knelt down, brushed dirt off the base of the stone. "We got him," I said quietly, feeling foolish talking to granite, but needing to say it anyway. "He'll never hurt anyone else." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of early spring. Nearby, a mother pushed a stroller past, her baby laughing at something unseen. Life continuing, indifferent to tragedy. I thought about Emma's unfinished painting, the woman trapped in glass. The art dealer who'd handled her work told me Emma had been gaining recognition, had a gallery show scheduled for next month. She'd been on the verge of real success, real independence. Todd couldn't allow that. I placed my own flowers beside the others. Sunflowers, because Emma's sister mentioned they were her favorite. "I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner," I whispered. "I'm sorry the system failed you. But apologies don't bring back the dead. They don't undo the suffering, the fear, the final moments of betrayal. They're just words we say to comfort ourselves, pretending we can somehow make it right." At the 6-month mark, I received a letter from Todd's prison. I almost threw it away unopened, but morbid curiosity won. His handwriting was precise, controlled, exactly like him. "Detective Rivera, I've had time to reflect on my actions. My therapist says I need to take responsibility. So here it is. I'm sorry. I was under tremendous stress. Emma's threats to leave, to take the children, to destroy our family. It pushed me to act irrationally. I never meant for things to go this far. I was trying to protect what we'd built. People don't understand the pressure of maintaining a certain image, of being the provider, the strong one. Emma wanted to throw it all away for her art career and her independence. She was selfish, really. I gave her everything, and it still wasn't enough. I know I'll spend my life in here, but I hope you understand that I'm not a monster. I'm just a man who made a terrible mistake in a moment of weakness. Respectfully, Todd. I read it twice, then filed it in Emma's case folder. Not as evidence, the case was closed, but as proof. Proof that some people never truly understand what they've done. They reframe murder as a mistake, violence as protection, control as love. Todd still saw himself as the victim. Emma's children visited my office a year after her death. Claire had brought them. Jackson, now 9, and little Sophia, who just turned 5 and barely remembered her mother. Jackson had something to give me, a drawing he'd made. It showed his mom with angel wings, painting a rainbow in the sky. Beneath it, in careful letters, he'd written, "Thank you for finding the truth." I had to turn away to compose myself. "Do you understand what happened?" I asked gently. Jackson nodded, older than his years. "Daddy hurt Mommy because he was scared she'd leave." Aunt Claire explained it. She said sometimes grown-ups make really bad choices. "Are you angry?" He thought about it. "I'm sad. I miss Mom. And I'm sad that Daddy chose to be mean instead of getting help." From the mouths of children, such clarity, such devastating truth. Sophia tugged my sleeve, holding up a photo of Emma. "This is my mama. She was pretty. She was beautiful," I agreed. "And she loved you both very much." Watching them leave, Claire's protective arm around their shoulders, I felt the bittersweet ache of partial victory. We'd gotten justice, but these kids still lost their mother. They'd grow up with trauma, questions, grief. Todd had poisoned more than just Emma. He'd poisoned their entire childhood, their sense of safety, their understanding of love. The ripples of violence never really stopped. Dr. Wallace called me on a rainy afternoon in late autumn, her voice shaken. "I need to tell you something. It's been eating at me." I pulled over, turned off the car. What is it? 6 months before Emma died, Todd came to my office alone. Said he was worried about Emma's condition, wanted to understand the risks. I explained everything. Her prognosis, her medication, what symptoms to watch for. She paused, breathing unsteadily. But now I realize he wasn't asking out of concern. He was researching, planning, and I gave him the roadmap. Dr. Wallace, you couldn't have known. Could not. Her voice cracked. He asked specifically about digitalis toxicity. What would happen if someone took too much? I thought it was academic interest, medical curiosity. I answered his questions thoroughly, professionally. I helped him kill her. The guilt in her voice was crushing. You're not responsible for his choices. But I provided the information. If I'd been more suspicious, if I questioned why he was really asking. She was crying now. She came to me scared, and I didn't push hard enough. I should have called someone, done something. This was the other tragedy. The people left behind, carrying blame that wasn't theirs to carry, tormented by what-ifs and should-haves. He would have found another way, I said firmly. Men like Todd always do. The town began to heal in the way towns do. Slowly, imperfectly, with scars that never quite fade. The Hawkins house finally sold, bought by a young couple from out of state who didn't know its history. Mrs. Chun started a neighborhood watch program, though everyone knew it was really about forgiveness, hers for herself. But some wounds stayed open. The parents at Jackson and Sophia's school whispered, pointed, made the children carry their father's sins. Claire fought fiercely to protect them, changed schools twice, finally moved them to a different county where no one knew their last name. I kept tabs on them over the years. Jackson grew into a thoughtful teenager, quiet but kind. Sophia showed artistic talent like her mother, her drawings full of light and color. They were surviving, even thriving, despite everything. But sometimes I wondered what Emma would have become if Todd hadn't stolen her future. What paintings would she have created? What joy would she have found in freedom? What kind of woman would her daughter have grown up watching, learning from? Those possibilities died with Emma, buried in that cemetery plot with the sunflowers. I attended a domestic violence awareness event where Claire spoke, her voice steady and strong. My sister tried to leave. She tried to get help. She did everything the system tells you to do, and she still died. We need to do better. We need to believe women when they tell us they're afraid. The audience applauded, moved and righteous. But I wondered how many would actually listen. Caroline Dawson, Emma's mother, never recovered. I saw her at the grocery store 2 years after the trial, her cart half full, her eyes distant. She'd aged a decade, the grief carved into every line of her face. Mrs. Dawson, I said gently. She focused on me slowly, recognition dawning. Detective, you got him. You got the man who killed my baby. Yes, ma'am. She nodded, then her face crumbled. But it doesn't bring her back. Everyone said justice would help, would give us closure. It didn't. She's still gone. And I still see her face every night, wondering if she called out for me at the end, if she was scared. I had no comfort to offer. Justice isn't healing. Conviction isn't closure. They're necessary, but they're not enough. I should have seen it, Caroline whispered. I'm her mother. I should have protected her. This was the guilt that consumed families. The belief that love should have been enough to save them. That motherhood or sisterhood or friendship should come with some supernatural ability to detect danger. But Todd had been skilled at hiding his nature, at projecting normalcy while chaos churned beneath. He fooled everyone, I told her. That's what these men do. She looked at me with hollow eyes. Then how do we stop them? I didn't have an answer. For years after Emma's death, I received a call from the prison. Todd Hawkins wanted to speak with me. I almost refused, but something made me accept. The visiting room was gray and cold, smelling of industrial cleaner and desperation. Todd had aged poorly, thinner, grayer, the confident mask completely gone. He sat across from me, hands clasped on the metal table. Why did you want to see me? I asked. I wanted to apologize. I waited. Not to you, he clarified. To Emma. But she's gone, so... He trailed off, something raw and broken in his expression. I dream about her every night. She's always in that glass box, the one from her painting. She's screaming, and I can't hear her. I wake up, and for a moment I forget, and then I remember what I did. "Good," I said flatly. He flinched. "I know you hate me. Everyone does. My own kids won't take my calls. My parents disown me. I sit in this cell 23 hours a day with nothing but my thoughts, and I finally understand what I took from the world. Do you?" I lean forward. "Do you understand that Emma was a person with dreams, with talent, with love to give? That she wasn't yours to control or destroy? That you didn't just kill her, you killed everything she could have been?" Tears ran down his face. "Yes, then live with it. Every single day. That's the only justice left." I stood to leave, but he called out. "She tried to tell me. The morning she died, she said, 'I forgive you, but I'm still leaving.' I killed her anyway." I walked out without responding. The case files for Emma Hawkins sit in my office, marked closed but never really finished. I've solved dozens of murders since hers, retired from the force, started teaching at the police academy. I use her case as a teaching tool. How to spot coercive control, how to investigate deaths that look natural, how to believe victims. But Emma's face still haunts me. Not because we failed to get justice. We did. But because we failed to save her. Every class, I tell the young detectives the same thing. Emma Hawkins did everything right. She documented the abuse. She told people. She tried to leave. And she died anyway because the system didn't move fast enough. Because people didn't believe her fear was real. Because her husband was more convincing than her terror. I show them her painting, The Woman in the Glass Box. This was her cry for help. How many women are painting their own versions right now, hoping someone will see? The statistics are numbing. On average, 3 women are murdered by intimate partners every day in this country. Most try to leave. Most ask for help. Most were told they were overreacting, being dramatic, causing problems. Emma wasn't unique. She was one of thousands. That's the truly haunting part. Not that it happened, but that it keeps happening over and over in houses just like hers, in towns just like Willow Creek, to women just like Emma. I visited Emma's grave one last time before moving out of state. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful, the grass green and well-kept. Her stone had weathered a bit, the letters slightly worn but still clear. Someone had left fresh sunflowers. Claire, probably, still tending her sister's memory. I knelt down, placed my hand on the cold granite. "I never met you," I said quietly. "But I feel like I know you. Your art, your letters, your sister's stories. They painted a picture of someone who deserved so much more than what you got." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees. "I hope wherever you are, you're free. I hope you're painting without fear, loving without control, living the life he stole from you." My voice cracked. "And I hope other women see your story and leave before it's too late. I hope they believe their own fear, trust their own instincts, choose themselves even when it's hard." But hope isn't enough. It wasn't enough for Emma. Standing there in the fading light, I thought about all the closed doors in all the houses in all the towns across the country. How many women were trapped behind them right now? How many were planning escape routes, hiding money, documenting bruises? How many were one wrong word away from becoming another statistic, another story, another grave? The question followed me as I walked away, unanswerable and eternal. 10 years have passed since Emma's death. Her children are grown now. Jackson in college studying social work. Sophia, a talented artist with her first gallery show. They survived, even flourished, proof that darkness doesn't always win. But Emma should be here to see it. I think about her constantly, especially when new cases cross my desk, when I see the patterns repeating. The charming husband with the controlled wife. The isolated woman with unexplained injuries. The sudden death that everyone accepts too quickly. I've learned to recognize the signs, taught hundreds of officers to do the same. We've saved some women, prevented some murders. But not all, never all. That's the weight I carry. The ones we couldn't save, the Emmas who slipped through cracks we didn't even know existed. Late at night, when sleep won't come, I return to that central question that has no answer. How many women suffer in silence, trusting the ones who hurt them the most? How many paint their pain into art that no one sees? How many whisper warnings that no one hears? Emma's voice echoes across the years, across the cases, across the lives. If anything happens to me, don't believe it was my heart. She knew. She told us. We just didn't listen fast enough. And somewhere tonight, in a house that looks perfect from the outside, another woman is trying to tell us the same thing. The question isn't whether we'll hear her. It's whether we'll believe her in time. Some crimes don't end with a verdict. They linger in empty houses, in children who grow up too fast, in questions that never fully fade. Emma Hawkins did not die because of a weak heart. She died because her fear was quieter than her husband's performance, because control disguised itself as care, because warning signs were easier to dismiss than to confront. Her story reminds us of an uncomfortable truth. The most dangerous lies are often told calmly by people we trust, in homes that look perfectly normal from the outside. Somewhere tonight, another woman may be documenting her fear, leaving clues, hoping someone will listen. The real question is not whether the warning will come, but whether this time it will be believed. If this story moved you, disturbed you, or made you think twice, help us keep these stories alive. Like this video, so more people see it. Subscribe to True Crime Files Gist for in-depth, carefully told true crime investigations. And share this story, because awareness can be the difference between silence and survival. Every story matters. Every warning matters. And here at True Crime Files Gist, we make sure they're never forgotten.